For 300 years, the Galactic Council laughed whenever the name Earth appeared in their chambers. To them, humanity was nothing more than an overaggressive species from an insignificant blue planet tucked away on the edge of civilized space. The Carthan Empire called humans primitive. The Zalori Syndicate mocked their outdated warships. Even the mighty Archon Dominion refused to recognize humanity as a serious military power. Whenever ambassadors mentioned Earth, senators smiled. Whenever human fleets were discussed, admirals chuckled. Too emotional. Too reckless. Too young. That was how the galaxy judged humanity. And for decades, humanity allowed them to believe it. Earth had joined the Galactic Union only 70 years earlier. Unlike older civilizations that possessed tens of thousands of star systems, humanity controlled barely 40 colonies. Their economy was average. Their diplomatic influence was limited. Their technology seemed ordinary. At least, that was what everyone thought. The truth was far different. Human engineers never chased prestige. They chased efficiency. While alien civilizations competed to build the biggest battleships and the brightest cities, Earth quietly invested in something no one considered important. Industrial shipyards. Hidden manufacturing worlds. Automated drone factories. Asteroid mining networks. Underground fusion reactors. Every credit Earth earned disappeared into projects nobody could explain. The Galactic Council assumed humans were simply wasting resources. No one asked why. No one cared enough to investigate. That would become the greatest intelligence failure in galactic history. Far beyond Earth's public trade routes. Beyond mapped hyperspace lanes. Beyond civilian navigation charts. Thousands of construction platforms orbited silent stars. Gigantic machines worked without pause. Robotic arms assembled kilometer-long hulls. Quantum forges produced armor plates every few seconds. Entire fleets disappeared into classified dry docks. Workers signed contracts that erased their identities. Artificial intelligences supervised production 24 hours a day. No celebrations. No military parades. No announcements. Only endless construction. Generation after generation. Preparing. Waiting. For a war everyone else believed would never happen. Then came the insult that changed everything. At the annual Galactic Security Summit, representatives from every major civilization gathered to discuss border conflicts. Human Ambassador Elias Warren proposed creating a joint defense initiative against the mysterious Void Marauders, an expanding force destroying remote colonies. The response was immediate laughter. The Carthan Chancellor stood. Earth wishes to lecture ancient civilizations about warfare? The chamber erupted. Even allied delegates smiled politely. Another senator leaned forward. If humanity fears pirates, perhaps you should remain on your tiny planet. More laughter echoed across the hall. Ambassador Warren remained perfectly calm. He simply closed his tablet, and quietly said, "I hope, for all your sakes, you're never forced to discover what humanity has been building." The laughter grew even louder. No one noticed that every human delegate had already left the chamber. No one realized the final fleet had just received its activation order. Across the galaxy, the laughter inside the Galactic Council chamber spread through every major news network. Holovision anchors replayed Ambassador Elias Warren's final words thousands of times. "I hope, for all your sakes, you're never forced to discover what humanity has been building." Commentators mocked the statement. The humans are bluffing. They're trying to protect their reputation. Earth doesn't have the economy to support a large navy. Military analysts produced charts proving that humanity possessed barely 200 frontline warships, less than 1/10 the strength of the Carthan Empire. The galaxy laughed. Earth said nothing. For the next 3 weeks, something unusual happened. Human merchant convoys vanished from their normal trade routes. Civilian traffic around Sol was restricted. Long-range communications from Earth became heavily encrypted. Officially, the Terran Federation announced only one thing: routine defense exercises. Nobody believed it. Nobody imagined the truth. Then the Void Marauders struck. Without warning, Hundreds of black warships emerged from fractured hyperspace above the independent colony of Viral Prime. The attack lasted less than an hour. Orbital defenses collapsed. Space stations burned. Entire cities disappeared beneath columns of blue plasma. Millions fled as emergency broadcasts echoed across the system. The Galactic Council immediately called for military assistance. The Carthan Empire promised reinforcements. Arrival time, 11 days. The Archon Dominion dispatched 3 battle groups. Arrival time, 9 days. The Zalori Syndicate refused to intervene until payment was negotiated. Meanwhile, Viral Prime had less than 6 hours before total destruction. Panic spread across every inhabited world. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy faced an enemy advancing faster than its greatest fleets could respond. Deep beneath Earth's lunar command complex, crimson lights illuminated a vast underground chamber. Rows of admirals stood silently before a massive holographic display showing the burning colony. Fleet Admiral Cassandra Hayes studied the tactical map without emotion. "The Council ignored our warnings," one officer muttered. "They mocked us," another added. Hayes nodded once. "They did." The room fell silent. After a long pause, she spoke the words every commander had waited decades to hear. "Protocol Aegis." Instantly, the hologram changed. Thousands of hidden shipyards lit up across unexplored sectors. Encrypted signals raced through quantum relays. Ancient authorization codes unlocked sealed military facilities. Deep beneath frozen moons, inside hollowed asteroids, around forgotten stars, massive hangar doors began to open. One after another, then another, and another. For decades they had remained dark. Now engines older than some civilizations awakened with a thunder that shook entire systems. Far beyond known space, a lone reconnaissance drone from the Void Marauders transmitted its final report. It expected to find a weak human civilization. Instead, its sensors detected something impossible. Not hundreds of ships, not thousands, but endless formations stretching across the darkness like steel continents. Battleships, carriers, drone tenders, Titan-class command vessels. Entire fleets emerging from hidden docks in perfect formation. The drone managed to transmit only 4 words before its signal vanished forever. Human fleet, beyond counting. The final fleet had begun its march. The emergency transmission from the Void Marauders spread through military intelligence networks in less than 2 minutes. Most commanders dismissed it as corrupted sensor data. Beyond counting? Impossible. No civilization could secretly build a fleet of that size. Not even the Galactic Council's combined navies possessed enough shipyards. Yet, one by one, long-range observation stations began reporting the same unbelievable sight. Entire star systems that had appeared empty for centuries suddenly came alive. Hidden jump gates activated. Dark moons split open to reveal colossal dry docks buried beneath their crusts. Asteroid belts unfolded into automated weapons platforms. Then the ships began to move. Thousands at first. Then tens of thousands. Then so many that tactical computers could no longer assign individual tracking numbers. Galactic surveillance satellites simply labeled the growing mass with a single warning: unknown fleet size. Inside the Galactic Council's high command, the atmosphere had changed completely. The same admirals who had laughed at humanity now stood in stunned silence. The enormous holographic map of known space flickered as new contacts appeared every second. A young intelligence officer swallowed hard. Fleet count has exceeded 100,000 confirmed vessels. The room remained silent. Another officer looked up from his console, his face pale. "Our computers have stopped counting. There are too many signals." The Carthan Supreme Marshal slammed both hands on the table. "Where did these ships come from?" No one answered. Then Ambassador Elias Warren quietly stepped into the chamber. Every eye turned toward him. He looked around the room, recognizing many of the faces that had mocked him only weeks earlier. Without anger or triumph, he spoke calmly. "You assumed humanity stopped building warships because you couldn't see them." He tapped the holographic display. "We never stopped." Far beyond the Council's borders, the Void Marauder Armada continued its assault on Viral Prime. Its commander, Warlord Xyrex, watched the burning colony with satisfaction. The galaxy had always been predictable. Every civilization delayed. Every alliance argued. Every rescue fleet arrived too late. Today would be no different. Then alarms erupted across his flagship. Unknown hyperspace signatures detected. Xyrex frowned. How many? The sensor officer hesitated. I can't calculate the total. The stars ahead suddenly shimmered. Space itself seemed to crack apart. One enormous hyperspace gateway opened. Then another. Then dozens. Then hundreds. Golden light poured across the battlefield. From the first gateway emerged a colossal Terran dreadnought, its armored hull stretching nearly 20 kilometers in length. Behind it came hundreds more. Then carriers. Then battlecruisers. Then swarms of autonomous drone destroyers filling the void like a metallic storm. Finally, a transmission echoed across every frequency in the system. Fleet Admiral Cassandra Hayes' voice was calm, clear, and unwavering. This is the Terran Final Fleet. You attacked innocent worlds. You ignored every warning. Your campaign ends here. Across thousands of human warships, millions of weapon systems powered to full strength. For the first time in its history, the galaxy witnessed humanity's true military power. For a single heartbeat, the battlefield fell completely silent. The Void Marauders stared at the impossible wall of human warships stretching across the stars. Their sensor arrays struggled to process the data. Every scan returned the same result. Target count, higher. Warlord Xyrex narrowed his glowing eyes. Impossible, he whispered. No civilization hides a fleet like this. Fleet Admiral Cassandra Hayes stood aboard the flagship TFS Resolute, watching the enemy formation without emotion. Open a channel. Within seconds, Xyrex's scarred face appeared on the command screen. You've made a mistake, human, he growled. Leave now, and I'll spare your world. Hayes didn't even blink. No. One word. Cold. Final. Then she gave the order that generations of Terran commanders had trained for. Operation Final Dawn. Across the human armada, thousands of command lights turned green. The final fleet came alive. Instead of charging forward recklessly, the Terran ships spread into perfect geometric formations. Drone carriers released millions of autonomous attack drones, forming enormous metallic swarms. Electronic warfare cruisers flooded enemy sensors with false targets. Stealth destroyers vanished from scanners entirely. Railgun battleships rotated into firing position. The Void Marauders fired first. A river of plasma cannons and antimatter lances raced toward the human fleet. But moments before impact, shimmering blue energy barriers unfolded across hundreds of Terran ships. The enemy barrage shattered harmlessly against layered shield networks. Before the smoke cleared, Admiral Hayes gave her second command. Return fire. Thousands of magnetic railguns discharged at once. The darkness exploded with streaks of brilliant white light. Each tungsten projectile accelerated to a fraction of light speed. Void Marauder cruisers simply disappeared. Some were pierced clean through. Others broke apart into glowing fragments before their crews even realized they had been hit. Xyrex roared in disbelief. Advance the Leviathans. From the rear of the enemy fleet emerged 12 gigantic dreadnoughts, living warships grown from bioengineered armor. Each one dwarfed the surrounding vessels. For centuries, no fleet had survived a Leviathan assault. They surged toward Earth's formation like unstoppable monsters. Admiral Hayes remained calm. Release the Titans. Hidden among the Terran lines, 10 colossal vessels slowly moved forward. Unlike ordinary battleships, these carried no visible guns. Instead, enormous rings surrounding their hulls began to rotate. Power levels climbed. 5%, 20%, 60%, 100%. The stars themselves seemed to dim. Then the rings fired. 10 brilliant beams of compressed stellar energy crossed the battlefield. The Leviathans vanished instantly. Not destroyed. Erased. Nothing remained except expanding clouds of superheated particles. For the first time in their history, the Void Marauders knew fear. Xyrex stared at the empty space where his greatest weapons had existed only seconds earlier. His voice trembled. What are these humans? Across every communication channel, silence answered him. The final fleet continued its relentless advance. And everyone watching the battle, from frightened civilians to the leaders of the Galactic Council, realized the same terrifying truth. Humanity had never been the weakest civilization in the galaxy. It had simply been the most patient. The battlefield was over. Where the mighty Void Marauder Armada had once blocked the stars, only drifting wreckage and fading explosions remained. Thousands of escape pods floated silently through space. Human rescue ships moved among them, not to finish the survivors, but to save anyone still alive. Across the galaxy, billions watched the live broadcasts in stunned silence. The same civilization that had unleashed overwhelming military power was now rescuing the very enemies who had invaded innocent worlds. The contrast left the Galactic Council speechless. Humanity had won, but it had chosen mercy over revenge. On the shattered bridge of the Marauder flagship, Warlord Xyrex struggled to stand. His once proud fleet was gone. His empire's greatest warriors had been defeated in less than an hour. As Terran Marines entered the ruined command deck, he expected execution. Instead, Fleet Admiral Cassandra Hayes walked toward him. She removed her helmet and looked directly into his eyes. "You've lost." Xyrex lowered his head. "Then finish it." Hayes shook her head. "No." The alien looked up in confusion. "We don't fight to destroy civilizations," she said calmly. "We fight to stop those who destroy others." For the first time in decades, Xyrex had no answer. Days later, representatives from every known civilization gathered once again in the Galactic Council chamber. This time, no one laughed when the Terran delegation entered. Every ambassador stood. Every admiral saluted. Even the Carthan Chancellor, the same leader who had mocked humanity, bowed his head. "I owe Earth an apology," he admitted. "We mistook your silence for weakness." Ambassador Elias Warren smiled politely. "You weren't the first." The chamber grew quiet. Warren stepped to the center of the hall. For centuries, the galaxy measured strength by the size of an empire, by the number of conquered worlds, by fear. He paused. Humanity measured strength differently. We built our fleet not to rule the galaxy, but to ensure no child would ever watch their home burn while others debated who should help. No one interrupted. Because every civilization knew he was right. The final fleet did not occupy conquered systems. It did not demand tribute. It did not claim territory. Instead, Terran engineers rebuilt Viral Prime. Human doctors treated alien civilians without charge. Construction ships restored orbital stations. Food convoys arrived before the smoke had even cleared. Within months, worlds that had feared humanity now called Earth their greatest ally. The hidden fleet remained exactly where it had always been, silent among the stars. Not as a weapon of conquest, but as a promise. A promise that whenever darkness threatened the innocent, humanity would answer. And from that day forward, whenever someone in the galaxy mocked the people of Earth, the oldest veterans simply smiled and repeated a single sentence that would become legend. Never mistake humanity's silence for weakness, because the strongest fleet is the one no one knows exists until it's too late.